Okay guys, so this is video demonstration number 4 and this is all around mark making. Now you will have hopefully, if I get the booklet out here, you will have hopefully have already done this page where you've had a go at mark making yourself, you've had a go at hatching and cross hatching. What I'm going to do now is, now that you've had a go on your own and you've done this independently, I'm now going to show you just a couple of tips and tricks and different ways to create mark making, and I'm going to practice this in my sketchbook. You can do the exact same thing, okay? So what you'll notice if you look at lots of different artists is there are different ways in which you can create marks with either a pencil, a pen, a fine liner. So today I'm going to show you, I've got a pencil, which is just a 2B mechanical pencil. It's no different than the pencils that you use in school. So I'm going to show you using one of those. I'm going to show you using a Biro ballpoint pen, same as what you use in school. And I'm also going to show you using a fine liner. So this is a Uni Pin fine liner. It's waterproof and fade proof. So you could draw with this, for instance, let it dry and then watercolour paint over the top of it to get that nice effect. So these pens are really good. They come in this style. I've got a really old one here. Some of you might recognise this one. It's faded off because it's well loved, but it's a Pigma Micron. And this one's a Uni Pin. And you can get them off like Amazon, things like that. So I'm going to start off with the Uni Pin Pen. I've got a couple of different sizes here to show you for anybody that does have them. So we have a 0.8, okay, which is a much bigger nib size. So we've got a 0.8. I'll rest that there so you can see. Is it going to roll off? We have, it is. I'll put the lid back on. A 0.8. We've got a 0.5 here. You can see it's slightly smaller. We've got a 0.1, again, even smaller still. And then we have a 0.05. And what you'll see is the finer the detail that we want to create, the smaller the nib, the darker the detail, probably the thicker the nib that we want to use. I'm going to go for middle ground today. I'm going to go for a 5. Pop them to one side. I'm going to start off with the hatching. Now, when you're using pen for mark making, especially with a fine liner, it's not as easy to get those lighter shades, and that's what a lot of you will have found. So I'm going to start off with the easiest that a lot of you will have found, and that's probably the deeper, darker tones and shades. So we're going to start off down here, and we're going to work our way lighter so I can demonstrate the best way to do that. Now, in pen, the best way to get a dark shade is to have your lines quite close together. Now remember, this is hatching, so the pen's only going in one direction. But what I can do, so even if I want that to be darker than what it is there, okay, I can still go back over this again. The lines become more dense. They're all going in the same direction though. So it's still hatching, okay? So this is absolutely fine for that deepest, darkest shade, layering those lines up. Now, if I was doing cross hatching, it would be the same thing. So all those lines going in the same direction. What I'm not doing is I am not going backwards and forwards in a zigzag. They are all individual pen marks, and that's really important. Especially when we're practicing, especially when you're learning. Otherwise, it just becomes a really bad habit and it makes drawings look not very nice. Okay, so I've done it exactly the same. This time I'm going to turn my pen or your sketchbook, whichever you feel most comfortable with, and I'm going to cross hatch. So it's the same thing, again, layering up backwards and forwards. Still doing individual pen lines like that, not backwards and forwards. Now, if I'm going to go slightly lighter, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm not going to make it as dense, so I'm not going to layer it up as much. By dense, what I mean is like the amount of something. So if you thought about a really dense forest, if you were looking into a forest and it was dense, you would see loads of trees, loads of shrubbery. You wouldn't be able to see the sky. It'd be quite dark. It'd be thick and full of trees. If you were talking about a sparse forest, it would be few trees, lots of light, and you'd be able to see clearly through them, okay? So if we're talking about density, we're talking about how many there are and how close they are together, okay? So that is your hatching. Then we'll do the same for the cross hatching. Notice that I just didn't go over it as many times. And we'll cross hatch this way. The good thing about cross hatching and hatching is that you can always add more to it if you need it to be darker. So the trick is to not necessarily rush it. And then I'm going to go even lighter again. So now, because I'm trying to go lighter, I want my lines to be a little bit spaced apart. So I'm not layering up the way that I did last time to get that lighter shade. And again, the lines are going to be even further apart. Okay, so you can work like that. Same thing applies to Biro, but the difference with Biro that a lot of people don't necessarily know is you can actually shade with Biro. So I'm just going to show you as an example here. Move my sketchbook over a little bit. You can shade with Biro by pressing on nice and lightly, and you can get quite a nice effect with it. So you can apply more pressure. And you can apply full pressure and you get the solid colour. So Biro is kind of the in-between of the fine liner and the pencil when it comes to mark making. So if we're going to start nice and dark, obviously we're going for these heavy lines. We're going to do the same thing, pen lines going in the same direction. Layer them up. Cross hatching, same thing. Turn opposite direction. Cross hatching, you can go up and down as well if you need to make it more dense and darker. You can have lots of different directions going on like that. Okay, and then we're going to go a little bit lighter. What I'm actually doing is a combination of spreading the lines out, but then also not pressing on quite as hard with my Biro. And that achieves a lighter look. And then I'm gonna, just to save time, I'm gonna go press on even lighter than I have done. And get those lines. Or you could just have them separated more, so you can have less lines. And a lighter cross hatch. So it's up to you. This is a really good middle ground between doing the fine liner pen and the Biro. So I suggest that you have a good go at that. You can get some really, really nice effects. Like I said, especially if you were using colour Biro. So you can have a go at doing like eyes in like a different colour Biro. There's lots of artists out there at the moment on Pinterest that are doing that, and they do look really effective, especially if you use the same colour for the whole picture rather than obviously colouring in. And then we're going to go to pencil, which is our last one. Remember, this is a mechanical pencil, so it's just the same as the pencil that you use in school. And the same thing applies here. Obviously, we know that we can shade really lightly. We know that we can shade a little bit darker and then darker still. And that we do that by applying or taking away the pressure of the pencil. So if we're starting off dark, we want to be applying quite a bit of pressure, but we also want the lines to be quite close together. Okay, we're not going backwards and forwards like that. It's individual pencil marks. I'm going to do the same for the cross hatching. Like that. And then as we go lighter, I'm going to use a combination of a lighter pressure, but then also have my lines a little bit separated and spaced out. So it's not quite as dense as that one, but I'm also still pressing on a little bit lighter. And then again, for the lightest light one, even more spaced out and pressing on even lighter to get that lighter shade. Okay, so you can have a go at practicing like these, the individual swatches like that. But if we actually go to the booklet and we go to demonstration video 4, your task now is to write down 3 key tips for mark making successfully. So anything that I've just said then, I want 3 tips that you can remember in full sentences, please, guys. We're not making notes, we know how to write. And then what I would like you to do is try and create a gradual tonal scale. So the same as what you've done with pencil before, but I want you to have a go at doing the gradual tonal scale the best way that you can. Okay, once you've done that, you will then go and try and add the tonal hatching and cross hatching onto the eye. Now this bit, when you get to it, it's not about it being perfect, it's about you having a go and you problem solving to work out how you can add the darker bits here using these skills. So this is not expected to look absolutely perfect first, second or even third time round. This is for you to practice and have a go at. Okay, the first couple of times I've done this, I think the first maybe 3 times it looked a little bit dodge, but then the 4th and the 5th time it just gradually got better and better the more that I practiced it. This is for practice, it's not a final piece, okay? So do your best and put 100% effort in. Be good, be safe, guys.